And so we come to the 26th film in this series. How about that? But we're going to pretend it's the 25th, so that gives us an excuse to bring the beverage of our choice to the discussion when we do it on June 17, and we can toast ourselves because we deserve it, right? But we're also going to be toasting Mae West, who co-starred with Cary Grant in the 1933 film you're seeing this week, I'm No Angel. Truer words were never spoken. If you're of a certain age and you hear the name Mae West, I think you at least smile because you know that she became an icon in 1930s America. I believe the word icon is overused these days, but if there ever was a cinematic icon, it was Mae West, who in her day was downright subversive. Here are three famous Mae West lines. I bet you know at least two of them. When asked the question, haven't you ever met a man who could make you happy? She replies, sure, lots of them. Her most famous line is, of course, come on up and see me sometime. And there's one that you'll hear in this film. It is, peel me a grape. I wish I could imitate her, but she's inimitable, pretty much. Some of you are going to argue with me, saying that with only 4 songs, this isn't really a musical. But trust me that the leading historians say it is, and I'm taking their side. Anyway, this intro has got to be all about Mae, because you may know her only by reputation. The film is, after all, nearly 90 years old, and you may not have even thought about her much since the 1970s when the young Bette Midler sort of channeled her, and did it pretty well, too, I think. There was nothing like Mae before she burst on the scene, and there's been nothing like her since. She has the distinction of being censored, both on Broadway and in Hollywood, and she relished that. Mae West was born in 1892 and lived to be 88 years old. I recommend her memoir, which is really a treat. It's called Goodness Had Nothing to Do with It. Some early essentials. Just like about everybody in her generation, she came up through vaudeville and made her Broadway debut in 1911, where she became known as the bad girl of Broadway for her fan dance, although, as you can see, she certainly didn't need a fan. But in 1927, when she was 35, Mae realized that if she wanted to play star roles, she needed to create them for herself. She wrote a play called Sex, which actually was just as much about money. And after a 10-month run on Broadway in 1927, a grand jury ruled the hit play was, quote, such an obscene, indecent, immoral, and impure drama that it might corrupt the morals of youth. And she was sentenced to 10 days in jail. Whoa! By the way, she traveled there in style, as legend has it, bedecked in roses, wearing silk underwear, and riding in a limousine. When she got to Diamond Lil in 1928, she was once again the leading lady and the playwright, virtually unprecedented for a woman at that time. The play is set in the gay 90s, and it was such a smash that it sent her to the West Coast with a Paramount contract. Her first important work for the screen was turning Diamond Lil into a 1933 film, another hit, in which she was paired with Cary Grant, then just 29. Mae, on the other hand, was 41. Can you imagine a female actor that age getting such a break in Hollywood today? It would never happen. But Paramount wanted to cash in on her stage persona on screen, so 41 was just fine. And it's generally acknowledged that she saved Paramount from bankruptcy. So now we come to I'm No Angel, released later that year, and note the credits. Not only is her name as big as the title, it says story, screenplay, and all dialogue by Mae West, though Lowell Brentano does get a nod for suggestions, whatever that means. She plays Tyra, a circus performer who becomes a notorious lion tamer. And you know, the backdrop is so vividly the American city during the Depression. Mae is lower class through and through. But she makes her way up the social ladder, attracting the upper class Cary Grant without in any way changing who she is. She conquers classism and makes a bundle of money to boot with, believe it or not, her integrity intact. You could say that Mae West ran her own dictatorship of the proletariat. And here are some things to look for. Example. If Cole Porter, another 1930s urban icon, was the master of the double entendre in lyrics, in other words, double meanings, he met his match when it came to Mae's dialogue. My personal favorite, her question, "Is that a pistol in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me?" Unlike the 1960s and 70s, when pretty much explicit sex on screen eventually became boring, Mae did it all just by being suggestive. And that was never boring. Example, her body. An hourglass figure, unfashionable at the time, but wonderfully voluptuous when displayed by Mae on screen. And how about her walk, which critics describe as more of a sachet? And the way she delivers her wisecracking punchlines so offhandedly, it's almost as if she's saying, take it or leave it, and she doesn't care either way. Another example, she is what I would call a proto-feminist. She anticipates modern feminism in everything she does, but again, she doesn't make a big deal about it, you know? It's just so clear that she is in control over every aspect of this story. It's been said that she usurped male power for herself. And we laugh as she remains on top no matter what's going on, whether it's putting down a pretentious socialite or putting her head in a lion's mouth. In a way, she kind of reminds me of Ethel Merman, another take-no-prisoners phenomenon of the early 1930s. Though Mae was no belter, she was a damn good singer. It's just that, like everything else she does, the singing is on her own terms. Once again, a true original. Another, for example, she believes in African American equality, at least in the context of 1933 America. You might not think so at first because she has 4 maids and the stereotypes make us cringe. But the thing is, they all get an affectionate kick out of each other. And when Mae refers to them in her matter-of-fact way as great gals, you know she means it. And one final example, her intelligence. I think the big question about Mae West has always been whether she is flaunting female sexuality or mocking it. And I think the answer is that she's doing both. You can only pull that off if you are a really, really smart actor. When you add up all of these 4 examples, you get what we would call today a brand. Except that the image of Mae West was not created by corporate executives or marketing people. She invented herself. No question that her big decade is the 1930s, when, as Cole Porter puts it, anything goes. But even Mae could be tamed. This film, which was a box office triumph directed by Wesley Ruggles, led to the formation of the Hays Code, named for Will Hayes, who was then the president of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America. The code was rigidly enforced beginning in mid-1934, and because it spelled out in great detail what was and was not acceptable content for public audiences, it became laughable. At any rate, it's safe to assume that Will Hayes was champing at the bit to defang Mae West. As Karina Longworth puts it, the prigs had the last word. Her movie career effectively ended in 1943. Somehow she and Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma, which opened that same year, seemed to come from different planets. But she went on to nightclub work and touring on stage and appearing on television. And in 1970, she did make a final cameo appearance in Gore Vidal's disastrous comedy, The Campy Myra Breckinridge. She was 78 at the time. Well, here's hoping you enjoy Mae West in her spectacular prime. And while you're at it, peel me a grape. I'm Bill Rudman from the Musical Theater Project.